Okay, we'll go ahead and do a little bit of chapter 10 here. So this is Books and the Power of Print. So the trade market is really the largest segment of the book industry. So again, graphic novels and comics are also part of this. So about 15% of the annual unit sales growth over the last 3 years. They've also about 57% of purchases made from the age of 13 to 29 in that age group. Again, the stories transformed from television and movie narratives. So again, a lot of the books, that do transform. And the New York Times drops graphic novel bestseller list 2017 has been in existence for about 8 years. But again, 900 people signed a letter in February 2018 to bring back the list. So the graphic novels were kind of cool. Again, I've used those in class before and in the English and literature classes, and they are popular. There's no question about that. So the history of books from papyrus to paperback, again, the ancient world, papyrus made from plant reeds found along the Nile River. It was used as early as 2400 BCE. The parchment was the treated animal skin. It replaced papyrus in Europe. And the codex was a book made from sheets of parchment and sewn together along the edge, then bound with thin pieces of wood and covered with leather. So this was the first proto-modern book, and it was made by the Romans in the 4th century. And it could be opened to any page at that point. So again, allowed writing for on both sides of the page too. So again, manuscript culture was a period in which books painstakingly were lettered, decorated, and bound by hand. This was the entrepreneurial stage of the evolution of books. Again, illuminated manuscripts were use of decorative color designs and illustration made for churches or for the wealthy clients. Block printing and movable type. Block printing technique, which sheets of paper were applied to blocks of inked wood with raised surfaces. This depicted hand carved letters and illustrations. It was developed by Chinese printers. It enabled multiple copies to be printed and bound together. So this really did increase the amount of illustrations and how books were actually assembled. So again, movable type wasn't really invented until in China until around 1000 AD, and it created block pages faster. So it was developed independently in Europe in the 1400s too, but China was the first place that really saw it. The Gutenberg Revolution, the printing press, mechanical press using principles of movable type, was invented by Johannes Gutenberg. Inestimable influence on Western culture. It helped make the books cheaper. It permitted information and knowledge to spread outside of local jurisdictions. It permitted individuals to challenge traditional wisdoms and customs. He was really famous for the Gutenberg Bible, which required 6 presses, many printers, and several months to produce, and it was usually put on vellum, which was a fine calfskin-based parchment. And the hand-decorated pages were also part of it, and it formed the initial prototype for all mass production in terms of books in the future. There's no question that it did. So the birth of publishing in the United States was Stephen Day, published the first colonial book, the whole book of Psalms, in 1640. Benjamin Franklin imported and reprinted novels too. Paperback books, which were made of machine-made paper and cheaper papers, appeared around 1830. And the dime novels, which were paperbacks reduced to cost about 5 or 10 cents, was produced by Aratus and Irwin Beadle in 1860. And a lot of those were, surprisingly, even during the Civil War, the soldiers would carry the dime novels with them, which was an interesting concept back at the time, because when they had downtime, they would read the Pulp Fiction, which were those dime novels that were made with cheap machine-made paper. It's a little known fact of the Civil War. So in the 1880s, we started to get linotype, which was setting the type mechanically using a typewriter style keyboard. So you would type it in and it would use hot type and it could actually put in the letters for you. And introduction of steam powered and high speed rotary presses also came about then. And finally, in the early 1900s, the offset lithography allowed books to be printed from photographic plates rather than metal casts. So that reduced the cost of color and illustration, accelerated book production too. The formation of publishing houses, the early prestigious publishing houses tried to identify and produce works of good writers. So the oldest houses survive now as part of a larger conglomerate. Again, the demand for books between 1880 and 1920 really did increase rapidly because of the rise of the industrialized urban culture. And again, the book industry helped assimilate European immigrants into American culture by the language and being able to read, which helped them assimilate, there's no question. Decline from 1910 through about 1950s, the book industry still bounced back after World War II. But again, like any other magazines, the same thing, it went up and down. Trade books are hardbound and paperback books aimed at general readers and sold at commercial retail outlets, adult trade, juvenile trade, comics and graphic novels. Professional books target various occupational groups and are not intended for general consumer market like law, business, medical, technical, scientific. And textbooks are the national intent on improving literacy rates in public education. So elementary through high school, which is L-High, college and vocational books, which is a huge, huge market. There's no question about that. Religious titles, and again, reference books, dictionaries, encyclopedia, atlases, almanacs, professional trade specifically. A lot of those have changed because of online now that we don't see people using dictionaries as much as they would ask Siri or Alexa or whatever. The University Press is a nonprofit that publishes scholarly works for small groups interested in intellectually specialized area. So we have a press in the English department, Miami University Press, that does poetry. And sometimes it's literary theory and criticism, history of arts movement, contemporary philosophy, and it gives academics a avenue to actually be published too, which is part of it. So here's a little bit of the revenue from 2014. So you can see the higher ed is about almost $4 billion. Elementary through high school is about 3.7 billion. Professional is 2.39 or 69. And the trade, which includes adult, juvenile fiction, nonfiction, is about 15 billion. All others, including university press and religion, is a smaller part of the pie. So television and film really can help promote books. And again, there's two major facets with this. When you get your book on with a talk show host like Oprah Winfrey, that's a pretty good way to actually push the book in terms of getting it sold. And again, a lot of these books do end up as serving for ideas for TV shows and movies like Boardwalk Empire, Dexter on Showtime, The Life of Pi by Jan Martel, J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. We know all these did end up going to become major motion pictures. Audiobooks, some people use them, also known as talking books or books on tape. They generally feature actors or authors reading entire books or bridge versions. It's popular with commuters and the sightless and vision impaired. So some people like to read or hear a book on the way when they're driving to work. That's a possibility. The ebook, the digital book read on a computer or digital reading device, Project Gutenberg offers more than 40,000 public domain free books that are free that you can actually download. Again, print books are moving online. The first e-readers were heavy and expensive or difficult to read. Amazon produced the first one, popular on the Kindle and ebook store, and accounted for 29% of adult fiction sales in 2015. At one point at Miami, we talked about having every student have a Kindle and not buy textbooks and download them, but it didn't really come to fruition on that. So, but it was talked about. So the future of ebooks really includes printing books on demand, reviving books that would otherwise go out of print, avoiding the inconvenience of carrying unsold books, reimagining what a book can be so you can host embedded videos, hyperlinks, dynamic content. You can tailor books to specific readers, however you want to do that. So that is a new wave that's with books that's coming along. So how do we preserve and digitize the books from the past? Again, a lot of these 19th century books were printed on acid-based paper, which deteriorates. And again, libraries developed preservation techniques in the 70s. Finally, we had the acid-free paper developed in the early 90s, and libraries photocopy pages onto their paper and then stored the originals. We also have digital imaging, where universities have partnered with Google and Amazon to digitize text and then make them available online. So the libraries came together to create nonprofit archives called the Digital Public Library of America. So we can find things that may be out of print or no longer exist in terms of, because of the paper they were printed on. So this is another one that's always interesting, is the censorship issue. And again, it's been imposed by various rulers and groups to maintain authority, often prevented people from learning about the rituals and moral standards of other cultures. The American Library Association compiles a list of the most challenged books everywhere. I think of To Kill a Mockingbird is one that always amazed me, was banned for a while. There's a list of about 100 that, if you look at it, it's pretty crazy to think that some people don't really want books out there to get a different type of viewpoint. So the book challenge would be the formal complaint or removal from a book library. These are the reasons they would say: sexually explicit passages or nudity, offensive language or racism, occult themes, violence, homosexual themes, promotion of a religious viewpoint. All those are rationales to actually try to ban a book, particularly in a school district or something too. The ownership patterns, a handful of major companies, they do dominate commercial publishing. Large companies can financially support smaller firms, so it allows editorial ideas to remain independent. The large trade book publishers and independents are both struggling because of the digital upheaval, and the dominance of Amazon for sure has changed the whole world in terms of books. So that's made a huge difference. Here's the 10 largest book publishers. If you look, you can see which country, and again, a lot of these are related to textbooks. Pearson in the UK is, again, textbooks. Thomson Reuters in Canada, also textbooks. So you go through the list. McGraw-Hill in the US is a big one, and you look at the amount of revenue, it's pretty crazy when you see the amount, particularly in related to the textbook industry too. It's one of the biggest ones. So the structure of the book publishing departments, you put it that way, similar to what magazines and newspapers are. There would be an editorial office that has acquisitions editor, identifies and signs the talent contracts. There'd be subsidiary rights they have to negotiate, selling the rights to a book for use in other media, such as a basis for a screenplay. Development editor handles the feedback to author and make suggestions for improvement. And they obtain advice from knowledgeable members of the academic community. And then copy editors are the ones that tend to specific issues of writing or length. So they'll go through the material and look for errors. And you also have fact checkers too, if you're writing nonfiction or fiction. So that also is part and parcel of it. There also is a production area where the design managers work on the look of the book. They make decisions about the type, style, paper, cover design, and layout, and the marketing, number of copies to print, and how to reach potential readers. So the cost for promotion and advertising too. We had a couple different textbook manufacturers in the Cincinnati area growing up. There's one down on Madisonville, unless you remember. I can't remember the name of that particular company, but we've had quite a few in this area that do publish textbooks. So selling books, the book superstores and the independent booksellers, the brick and mortar stores. Again, superstores are Barnes & Noble, independents, the big discount retailers, again, Walmart. Specialty retailers would include Anthropologie. Again, book clubs were also put into existence to help the industry when local stores were rare too, so the other thing. So it was consolidated into Pride Tree Holdings. So we also have that, where we have book clubs that try to push the books and the booksellers for them to help them. So the advantages to selling books online, again, convenience, low price, shipped to you 1 day, 2 day. Amazon.com obviously has transformed the industry. They're the major player in the print and ebooks. They established Amazon Publishing, and the biggest rivals are Apple's iBook Store and Google Play would be the two there. So again, public libraries are also trying to get in on this, on the e-publishing with newpages.com. They try to bring together alternative and university presses, independent bookstores, and guides to literary and alternative magazines. They're pushing it, but again, Amazon's still dominating. The e-publishing allows authors to sidestep a traditional publishing route so they can want to self-publish and have the opportunity to design and distribute books for a small price. And we see a lot of that these days, that people, if they want to write a book, they want to try to publish it themselves. So the question about the books and the future of democracy, again, they played an important role in spreading democracy, connecting people to new ideas. Americans are actually reading more, which I find hard to believe, but the readers are more likely to perform volunteer and charity work. And again, books and reading have survived the challenges of digital culture. I would hesitate to say it's the older people reading more so than the younger people would be, from my take on that. So that's chapter 10.